Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is John. On today's video I'm going to be sharing an answer to a question I was posed by a colleague several days ago, and I suppose it's a question everyone is searching for the answer for to some degree, and I find myself doing the same from time to time, so there may be value in me sharing this with you also. And to give you some context, there was a conversation I was engaged in where my colleague and I were talking about rest and relaxation, and I kind of made a joke. I said, I'm really good at relaxing. I find it really easy to switch off, and not to say that arrogantly, but I do, and that hasn't always been the case. And the response to that was another question: how do you find, with the way that life is unfolding and the state of things are, how do you find it so easy to switch off? And how do you stay so calm? And again, I don't wish to answer this question from a place of having figured out the answer to you as the viewer who is so much further behind me, because I don't perceive it to be that way. These kinds of questions are so relative because, when you're in the stressful experience, or when you're really stimulated, or you're struggling with something, that seems like a logical question to ask. But when you don't feel stressed, it doesn't really occur to many of us, I think, when we're in a position where life is going okay, for us to think, well, how can I make this continue? How can I prepare myself for the inevitable challenges which will arise as part of the human experience? It doesn't tend to happen. It would be a good question to ask, I have to say. And my answer to her was the same answer I share with you, which is some of a story, kind of a story. And I'm not the greatest storyteller, but I'll do my best to make this interesting, I promise. Many years ago, I found myself in a position in life where I had all of the things that I wanted, and I didn't feel like those things had any value to me. Like, I had what would appear to be, on the face of it, a stable life, relationship, good income, a nice place to live, a nice part of the world, good friends, active social life, but I just felt empty. Felt like things weren't really working out for me. And somehow, as seems to be the case in life from time to time, I started asking myself questions. Is this all there is? Is there more to life than this? Is it really the case that we're just here to be born, educated, go into work, maybe get married, start a family, buy a house, and then we retire, grow old and die? Like, is that all there is to life? Is there not like a bit more to it than that, a bit more depth? And as you start asking those questions, naturally the answers start to appear in various ways, and for me they appeared in the form of books. And now, prior to that point, I think I probably read one book, and it was a Star Wars novel. So it wasn't something I was particularly practiced at. And I started to learn about how the human experience is like a wave. It's constantly moving. We're constantly navigating through different emotional states, feeling states. Some of them don't feel so good. Some of them feel really good. When we don't feel so good, we want to do anything to change it. When it feels really good, we want to do anything to keep it. But what we forget at either of those extremes is that the process of change is continuous, and that the practice of being aware, or deepening awareness, is the recognition that this is taking place continuously. Is the recognition that the emotional experience of life by its nature is fundamentally unstable, which means it's always subject to change. Just like the weather outside, like today it's grey, tomorrow it might be sunny, tomorrow it might snow. It's very unlikely, but it's possible. But at some point the winter will come, and then the spring will come, and then the summer will come, and it will continue indefinitely. We can't live in the perpetual summer. Irrespective of where we are in the world, there's, even though you can go to the hottest parts of the world, there's still temperature fluctuations, quite extreme ones as well. So to be aware of that constant movement is to be less disturbed by it, to be less attached to keeping it a particular way or to changing it. And if you're in a place where life is going really, really well for you, then the likeliness is you probably aren't watching this video. But if you are, I appreciate it. It seems to me that we only seek better from a position of not feeling very good. When we feel really good, we don't tend to want to deepen it. We just appreciate it. Nothing wrong with that. But if you are one of the few who finds, even in the moments of joy, that you continue looking, then there is no, limit is not the word, but there's no limit, there's no end to how high you can go. And if you're in a position where you're feeling like life could be better, then know from that place of understanding that change is inevitable, that even the longest periods of disappointment or depression or sadness have an end. And it may not be the case that the end is right this second or even tomorrow, but it will come. And to know that it will come means to know that there is a possibility of an end. I've been asked questions of a similar nature before from people who are, let's say, in the depths of some kind of depression or sadness or grief or loss. And in those moments, and I've experienced those moments myself, it seems like they are without end. It seems like the sadness will never end. You cannot see a possibility of life without sadness. And actually, as I say that, it reminds me of the period of my life when I did start to learn about this, because that period was, for me, just like that. I couldn't see the possibility of me being a happy person. I couldn't see the possibility of me not just feeling this way, and this way at that point was like, life sucks. What's the point of me being here? And I don't feel like that now, thankfully. Which I hope demonstrates that possibility to you to some degree. And you might say, yeah, but I'm in a different position to you, or I've had a different upbringing, or I'm in different circumstances. And that may be the case. But experience and circumstances are two different things. Circumstances are circumstances. They are the apparent state of affairs in the world. The experience of them can and will change. And I can take this thing here, which is probably not the best example, but it's the thing that's to hand. And I can say, well, this is an object, and it's in the shape of a cat, and it's like a little beanbag thing, which came back with me from Thailand, and I happen to really like it. But if you're the kind of person that really hates cats, or you really hate the colour pink, or you just hate things that don't have a defined purpose, you're going to look at that and go, well, that's really stupid. Like, the thing is the same, but your experience of it is different. And it might be that 10 people have the same experience, but if one person has a different experience, then you can't really consider that experience to be truth. And a lot of us are looking for a way out of the kinds of experiences we're having, because we're told so much of the time that what's going on around us is worthy of our depression or our sadness or our judgment or our condemnation. Maybe those things aren't so good on the face of it, but Do we have to bring the entire experience of our life down to that level for everything? I'm not so sure. So it's a slightly long-winded way of answering the question, I know, and that just tends to be the way things come out of me. But my point is this: if you want to stay calm, be detached. To be detached from something is to see it from a distance. To see the emotional experience of life moving like this from a distance, as an observer from within, means that you are able to achieve some degree of detachment, if not all the time, at least some of the time. Which means that when you go down, it doesn't trouble you because you know that you will come up. And when you go up, you don't become arrogant because you know at some time you may go down. And you don't have to fear the going down, but you also don't have to rush towards the going up. And the less that process is forced, the less like kind of jagged and, I'm trying to think of the word here, the less unstable it becomes. Now, the ocean has its natural order. You have the waves and you have the tide, and the waves will be sometimes big, sometimes small, and the tide comes in and it comes out, and the waves will go in and they'll go out. But if you try and hold back the tide or control a single wave, then it creates consequences, it creates ripples, it creates other effects. And those other effects, well, far be it from me to say what they are, but I think hopefully you can read between the lines. If you try and control life, then it becomes a very stressful experience. And stress manifests in a various number of ways in the body and in the mind and on the outside. So if we all had a slightly better grasp, deeper grasp perhaps, of the fact that the life experience, the felt experience of life is fundamentally, it's built into the design that its nature is to change and not to fear the change, then life can just continue unfolding and we don't need to control it. I need to hear that as much as everybody else sometimes. And that's where the calmness comes. That's where the stability comes. The stability is in knowing that the emotional experience is not something to be managed. It's not something you have to control or cope with. If you are down, be down knowing that you will come up. If you are up, don't be attached to being up, knowing that at some point you may come down. And the knowing of this stops the extreme. That's the consequence. The consequence of knowing that change is going to happen stops you from resisting the change or trying to force it, which ironically makes the extremes bigger, right? So there are some of you who watch these kinds of videos, I'm sure, and if you're watching this far, again, I appreciate it, who will hear people speaking in the way that I may be speaking, and you're thinking, wow, this guy is really boring. Like, he's not speaking like everybody else, which is like 100 miles an hour. Oh, everything is really exciting and stimulating, and I'm going to put some sound effects in, some music, and throw a heap of information at you and loads of different pictures. That's not sustainable. That's a very, for me, unnatural pace. For others, maybe normal, but for me, it doesn't work. So from that place of detachment, from seeing things as they appear, up or down, better or worse, I don't need to rush forwards, but I also don't need to sit here and do nothing. I can do both if I choose, at various times, and I do. But for a large portion of the time, increasing portion of the time, I'm happy to be the observer, to share when it occurs to me to share, and to be silent when it occurs to me to be silent, to act when action is needed, but also not to act for the sake of it. to conserve my energy for the things which are important rather than waste them on worrying about things that I can't control. And the option exists for you also. So if you find yourself in that position where you want to understand how to be calm, consider that desire arises normally from the desire to avoid feeling uncomfortable. No one likes feeling uncomfortable, but it's a part of life. We know that when we go to the gym, but we don't necessarily know that about the experience of life itself. And if we can have a slightly better grasp on that, I feel it would make life considerably easier and simpler for most of us. If you have any questions around that, or there's anything that you've heard in that you may wish to reflect on, please share them in the comments. Contact me via email. I'd love to hear from you. Equally, if you find value in these words, then do let me know. Like, subscribe, comment, do whatever you feel inclined to do to let YouTube know that there's something here that's useful that other people may benefit from too, that's slightly less stimulating than the majority of what's out there, and also is not scripted or generated by an AI, which a large amount of what's out there is also. And I'd like to preserve some degree of humanity. So, yeah, I'd appreciate your help on that one. But for now, as always, I appreciate your attention and thank you for watching, and I shall see you on the next one.